development. There you go. We're recording. Got it. We provide business development workshops. We provide one-on-one coaching. We provide technical assistance. And this is all at no cost to you as long as you're within our 24 Western North Carolina counties. So I hope everyone is doing well today and you've survived the storm that we just had. There's a lot of cleanup involved around town, so I hope everyone is doing well. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jessica, and I'm excited to hear your presentation.
Great, thank you, Laura.
Yep.
I invite those of you who have your camera off, if you're able to turn your camera on. I know it's not always possible, especially with working from home and having kids and all sorts of things. But if you're able to, I invite you primarily because this is going to be a very interactive workshop, which I'm excited about. So this is not just me talking to you. This is you engaging, participating. We're going to go through several practices because it's so easy to talk with our mind about what we want. And it's a very different thing to actually do it and to actually feel what you want and feel the resistance to asking for what you want and feel the fears to asking for what you want. It's a very different experience. So this is not an intellectual process. This will be a very embodied process. So I'll take you through particular practices. Sharing will be invited, but everything is voluntary. So if you don't want to share, that's absolutely okay. But I invite you to move through the discomfort of sharing because that's part of what we're here for, right? We're here to move through the discomfort of these things and proclaiming what you want out loud. For example, might feel really uneasy in a group of people that you don't know, but at the same time, it will be what will help you move through the discomfort of doing it with people you do know and want to ask. That being said, I would love for us all to agree that if somebody does share something, be it personal or not, that we maintain the confidentiality of that person expressing this so that we all feel comfortable sharing what comes up for us, knowing that it's not going to be shared to a million people out in the world without our express permission and consent. Does everybody agree with that? If so, just raise your hand or give a little nod. Put your hand up if your video is off. I would appreciate that. Because it's really important for us to be able to feel like we can know that what is here stays here. So the only other thing is this is not necessarily a place for advice giving. So if we are sharing that, you practice those reflection skills and curious questions instead of offering advice so that we really have the opportunity to hear each other. We're going to play with these things. So I invite you to explore what comes up for you. This is in the next hour, try to keep the judgment out of it as much as possible, right? Whether it's your own or somebody else's, just give yourself the permission to play over the next hour. We'll be here until 1 o'clock. We'll try to wrap up on time in honor of your busy schedules. Feel free to make yourself comfortable. If you need water, if you need to go to the bathroom, if you need to, I know some of you need to keep your video off for personal reasons. Feel free to make yourself comfortable, and I invite you to engage fully. Any questions so far before we officially get started? And if so, you're welcome to put them in the chat. It's probably a really easy way to do questions. I'll see it pop up in the chat. We can keep track of that. I'd love to know, and again, if you're able to put your hand up on the screen so I can see you, that would be lovely. If you're not on your screen, just you can click on the bottom. It's the reactions tab, and it allows you to raise your hand or put little emojis, kind of a thing. You should all have that on the bottom of your screen. I invite you to do that if your video is off, so that you don't have to turn your video on to respond. I'd love to know how many of you are entrepreneurs or own your own business. Just raise your hands so I can have an idea. Okay, great. And raise your hand if it sometimes feels difficult to ask for what you want. I mean, I imagine we're here, right? For because it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Especially as women, really, especially as women, we have not been trained to ask for what we want. In fact, we've been trained to give, and it's so hard for us to receive. And in order to ask what you want, you've got to start to master the art of receiving, right? We're going to talk a little bit more about that today. And I want to know, asking for what you want and knowing what you want are two different things. So if you could raise your hand and let me know if it's difficult to know what you want. Just raise your hand and let me know if it is. Great. And Juana Price, I hopefully got your name right. If welcome, feel free to turn your video on if you'd like. We're just going over a few of the details sometimes. Great, thank you, Deborah. Yeah, it feels like sometimes for me too. In the past it was like impossible. Sometimes it still gets difficult despite all the work I've done, right? To be able to open up that voice. And the beautiful part about our power is the capacity to move through difficulty and to do it anyway. And that's how we break the barriers. So that's what we'll talk about today. We're going to first go into a little bit of a grounding practice. And this will be to tap into what we want for today's practice. You will have the option of sharing this later. And it can be something personal. It could be something related to your work. I know we're here because we're in the business world, but this doesn't have to be a business thing that you want. It could be something in your relationship, could be something just personal that you want, because we're going to use it for play. We're going to use this to practice with over the next hour. So it can be anything that comes up. So go ahead, and you're welcome to turn your video off for this if you'd like, or keep it on. Close your eyes and start to find a comfy seat. I like to shake in my seat and kind of find that nice center point. Allow yourself to relax, and you can cast your gaze downwards or close your eyes. And start to notice that deep belly breath rise and fall. Start to watch that breath as your awareness and energy begin to travel down into your body, all the way down into your feet. You can place a hand on your belly if that feels comfortable. Where our hands go, our energy goes. Begin to bring your awareness into your feet. And even imagine there's a magnet underground pulling energy down from your feet into the earth. Feel your legs, your knees, your thighs. Come back up into your hips, into your belly. Desire often comes from this place, somewhere deep in your belly, deep in your body. So start to ask yourself silently, what is one thing I want to ask for? One thing I want. Don't try to think about it right now. You're just putting the question in to your body, into the space. And start to bring your awareness through your stomach, through your core, into your heart. You're welcome to keep one hand on your belly, one hand on your heart. Start to let that heart expand with your inhale. You inhale all the way up into your heart, exhale all the way back down through your belly. Ask the question again. What is one thing I want? What do I want? And allow yourself to receive the answer. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Come back to the space. I invite you, if you turned your camera off for the practice, to turn it back on so that we can all be here together again. And I believe, is it Zurilma? I hope I'm pronouncing that okay. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. We just
Happy to-
finished a little grounding practice, so I'm sorry we didn't let you in right away. You're welcome to take just a moment if you'd like to ground into something that you want, unless you already know something that you want. We're going to do a little play with this throughout the rest of the hour. So
Oh my
something that
goodness.
you want.
Yeah, Jessica, I just wanted to join for a few minutes and I need to go. So I'll
Okay.
probably just observe and then
Perfect. Great.
Laura.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So I hope that you are all able to feel into something that you want. I know sometimes the mind wants to make it something really big and important. It might just be something very simple. So give yourself permission to just acknowledge that to yourself, whatever that is. And if you had difficulty coming up with something that you want, feel free to let me know in the chat. We can talk through that a little bit. But otherwise, I invite you to just acknowledge what that thing was, however small, however big, however crazy, however weird it might seem. Allow yourself to acknowledge it to yourself, because the most important thing in knowing what we want is, as women, I think we're actually pretty good about knowing it. We're just really afraid of acknowledging it, right? We're really afraid to admit it's what we want. We're especially afraid to ask for it or think that, oh, we are so entitled to have this thing that we want, right? That's a lot of conditioning that we're used to. So just admit it. Just give yourself that permission to admit what you want. And then we're going to play with this thing throughout the rest of the hour. I think desire is something that's kind of gotten a bad rap. But desire teaches us, right? Desire teaches us about who we are, teaches us about our own personal experience. And when we want something, that's very different than needing something. So when we talk about how to express what we want, I want us to distinguish the difference here. when we're wanting something, we're desiring something, we're coming from a place of fullness, a place of abundance, a place of, I am worthy of this. When we come from a place of, I need this, it almost feels sometimes like a desperation, right? Or a scarcity, like I don't have this and I need it, and this person or this thing has to give it to me or else. You feel the difference? It's like, I want this for pleasure. I want this because it feels good. I want this because it feels expansive, right? Versus I want this out of need, which is a little more contracting. It tends to be a little more like demanding. And when somebody asks you something, if you have anything to share about this, feel free to put it in the chat. If somebody asks you for something that they need and you know they're reliant and dependent on you to fulfill that, and you're like their only option for having that, how does that feel, right? I mean, it can feel like there's a lot of pressure. For me personally, it can feel like there's a lot of pressure. I invite you to put any words in the chat that come up for you. For me, it can feel a little bit contracting for me to get that kind of request, like, oh, now I'm obligated, or now there's this requirement to fulfill this person if I love them or care about them, and that can be a little unsettling. And then it's hard to say yes from a place of fullness as well. Feels like your choice might be taken away. So those kind of interactions aren't the most enjoyable. They're not the most easeful. And so when we really learn how to express what we want, it's very important that we start to ground into the knowing that we not only deserve it and are worthy of it, but that we can ask for this from a place of fullness, a place of, if it's not this person, it can come through someone else, or it can come in another way, right? Trusting yourself to provide for you what is in your highest and best interest, trusting in yourself to have and create what you want, rather than being worried that it's just not going to happen, and so you have to cling for it, or grasp for it, or ask for it, or demand it. If you're starting to feel the difference, I'm sure you have felt the difference inside, right? When you want to ask for something, it's so much easier to come from a place of fullness and abundance, because then there's no attachment to the outcome. So when we ask for what we want with a deep attachment to the outcome, it feels more limiting. And when we ask for what we want with a deeper level of trust in our own capacity to create what we want, it feels like, oh, I'm going to ask for what I want, whether it's a client, whether it's a raise, whether it's something else, whether it's something in a relationship. And I'm going to trust that I'm able to work through this. I'm able to create this in different ways. I'm able to provide myself what I need. I'm able to, if it's not this, it's something better. If it's not this, it's something else. So very important to come from that perspective. Notice for that thing that came up for you in the practice, or anything else that you want to work with. If something didn't come up for you very specifically, just kind of close your eyes for a second and notice, is this thing that I want, how does asking for it feel in my body? Does it feel expansive, or does it feel contracting? Just kind of start to feel, how does this feel to ask for what I want? Is this something I need, something I have to have, or just something, ooh, I would really like that? And if it's not this, it's something more, it's something better. Start to just notice that. I'll give you just about 20-30 seconds just to tap in. Start to really sit with, what is this? How does this feel? Another way to notice is that often something that we are coming from a place of fullness feels more exciting. So does it feel exciting to get that, to have that, to want that? Or does it feel like ugh? So most often there's a subconscious fear that we don't deserve to have what we want. And it's often not something we think consciously to ourselves. It's not like most of us go around. There's some that's possible too. I don't deserve this, right? I can't have this. I'm not worthy of it. Those aren't necessarily conscious thoughts we're telling ourselves that we can. More often than not, it's something more deeply rooted that comes out through our subconscious mind, which dictates 95% of our behavior, which is a lot. So if your conscious mind, what you actually think, is dictating only 5% of your behavior, then that subconscious mind, those feelings, those beliefs about who you are and what you deserve are dictating the other 95% of your behavior and the actions that you take in the world, including what you want, why you want it, and whether or not you believe you deserve to have it, right? So in order to work with the subconscious mind, we've got to go into the body, which is why I led you through that initial body exercise. The body contains the subconscious mind. So we have to work with worthiness on a different level than the simple thought mind that we're aware of. And again, as women, it's something that we tend to devalue ourselves. I've worked with a lot of women over the years, and it's something that is very, very common. We tend to kind of put ourselves a little lower on the totem pole and put everybody else above us. And when we do that, what we're really saying is this person is more worthy than me, and I don't deserve that. Their needs are more important. I'm curious if you've ever had the experience of, well, I don't want to ask for this because it might affect this other person, so I'm not going to ask at all, right? This other person might have to give me something. They might have to go out of their way. Oh, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to make them upset, right? That's all ways that subconsciously we're saying, oh, well, this other person, how they feel, what they need, what they want is more important than what I say I feel, need, and want. And so I'm just not even going to ask or give them the choice because I'm just going to assume I'm not worthy of that. But they're worthy of feeling good and I'm not worthy of feeling good, right? That's really what we're doing. So we have to learn how to place ourselves equal to the other. We have to learn how to lift ourselves up in our heart. It all happens in the heart because we're never going to do this with our mind, right? We have to come into the heart and place ourselves equal to the other person. I'm just as worthy of joy as you are. I'm just as worthy of peace as you are. And when you come from that place of fullness, you're not asking them or demanding them to give something to you. You're opening the door to the possibility that they might actually want to give you what you want because they love you or they care about you or they want it too, right? So we have to be the one to open the door to that possibility. And that requires us lifting ourselves up as worthy and placing ourselves equal to the other person on that same level, not underneath, right? And not above either, because the demand is the above, right? The demand is placing yourself above somebody else. Like, I need this and you have to. And the abundance, the fullness is, oh, I'm equal to you and I'm wanting this and I'm asking you if you want it too, or if this is something you're willing to give me. So it's that recognition of that choice. And I think Alice just joined us. Welcome, Alice. You're welcome to turn on your video if you'd like. So believing that you deserve to have what you want is really essential. And it's really key to bring what you want in your heart, to know yourself worthy of it and to place yourself equal to the other person. Very key. If you really, especially if you're asking for something big, very key that you come from that place. That creates the energy of choice. It creates the energy of freedom for both people, including the person that you're asking. And The most difficult thing about that is that we have to believe we're worthy of receiving it if they say yes. And that's where we tend to also subconsciously block ourselves. Is not only do we place ourselves underneath and give more weight and priority to them, their feelings, their desires, their needs, their everything, but we also tend to, if they said yes, oh, who is me, right? Who am I to receive this? Who am I to want this? And can I actually open myself up to receive this? Do I actually believe I'm worthy of receiving this? The worthiness is something that we can't necessarily cover in just this limited amount of time, because the worthiness and the value is a much, much deeper subject. But just know that these are things that you can practice with and play with as you're wanting to express yourself and ask for what you want. It's playing with, can I trust myself to deserve this? Can I play with valuing myself enough? Can I practice placing myself equal to this other person in this conversation? And I play with these things, because the more we play, the less pressure we put on ourselves. And the more we play, the more we get to know that these are really deep-rooted 1,000-year-old beliefs and conditionings, right? And so we get to play with breaking those barriers. We get to play with, oh, I get to have what I want. I get to play with what I want. I get to play with asking. I get to play with creating these things. And another thing I'll mention before we move on is that generally, particularly again as women, because so much of this is related to how we've been, I think, conditioned as women. So often we feel like if we ask for what we want, not only is it difficult to receive, but we generally believe that in order to have what we want or receive this, we have to give something in return. So we generally feel like, well, if I ask for what I want, and again, this could be very, very subconscious. A great way to access the subconscious mind is through journaling. But if I ask for what I want, then I'm going to have to give X, Y, Z in order to get that. And it's sacrifice, and it's going to require more effort. It's going to require me giving, me losing aspects of things. And so opening up to receive without, in that particular circumstance, giving, especially in personal relationships and business relationships, there's almost always a give and take, because that's part of, how we generally construct business. But particularly in personal relationships, that's a really radical act, right? I'm willing to purely receive and open myself up to that gift of that love, that care, and not feel like I have to immediately give something back. That's a really radical act. So we're gonna go into a little bit of a practice of saying to yourself, proclaiming it to yourself, this is what I want. And I'm going to guide you through some possible resistances to notice that these are coming up. It's a way to access that subconscious mind, to see if any of these subconscious beliefs are coming up for you around this particular desire. So they're what are common subconscious resistances and blocks to asking or receiving what we want. So we're just going to do a little play. We're going to see how this feels for you. And you can turn off your video or keep it on. We're going to close our eyes or cast our gaze downward. So just allow that gaze to drop and start to bring your attention once again into your body by watching that belly breath. Then start to bring into your awareness that thing at the beginning of today you felt that you wanted. If you came in later, didn't go through the practice, if you can quickly feel into something that you want. Now begin to notice, where is what you want in your body? Kind of where do you feel that come from? Now, when you start to think about asking, it could be a particular person, business, for what you want. Start to imagine in your head that you're starting to ask for this. And just notice what happens to your body as you start thinking about actually asking for this thing. Again, and notice if there's any sort of contraction, any sort of resistance to asking. And normally, if we were one-on-one, we'd go a little deeper into this, but because we're in a group, just kind of notice that resistance, notice any contraction. If it's there, it might show up as a little contraction in your belly, might show up as your shoulders slightly rounding forward. It might show up as some tension in your arms or hands. And then start to imagine in your mind, if you ask this, like you're creating a scenario in your mind, you're imagining that you're doing this, you're asking for this, what fears come up? Notice if these are apparent in your body with any contraction, any resistance. Often it could be, what if they say no? What if they think I'm selfish? That's a guilt, right? Guilt. Notice if there's any guilt. Who am I? Or even any shame. Often your head will drop slightly forward, or your belly might contract if there's some shame. Or I just simply can't ask for this. It usually shows up in your stomach. So I'm going to give you a few moments of silence to just ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Why can I ask for this? And how does that feel? What am I afraid of? What scares me about asking for this? When you're ready, you can gently open your eyes back. If you turn off your camera, feel free to turn it back on. And that was a little of a short practice, so we're going to go over verbally what often comes up, and you can just see for yourself if this feels resonant for you. Because so often our thoughts will tell us right away, like, oh, I can't ask for that. They're going to think that I'm selfish, right? And so we tend to place that on the other person, like they're going to think this. And the truth is, we believe that, right? So like we're projecting, and they're going to think I'm selfish if I ask for this, but the real belief is I'm selfish if I ask for this. And there's a big difference between selfish and selfhood. And selfish is when you place yourself above another person, when you believe that you are more important, more worthy, that you get to have what you want. It doesn't matter how it affects them. It doesn't matter if it bothers them. And that's usually not where we're coming from as women when we're wanting to ask for what we want, right? We're usually coming from a place of selfhood, which is, oh, this is something I want. This is something that I feel this desire rising up within me for this thing. This feels expansive. This feels juicy. This feels great. This feels fun or exciting. And I'd love to know. I'd love to invite you. Do you want this too? Would you like to do this with me? Would you like to offer this? Would you like to participate in this program? Would you like to? That's giving another person a choice. It's opening the door to that possibility versus that demand, that scarcity we talked about, right? Or that I'm choosing for you. So distinguishing between the selfhood and the selfish is a constant practice of, is this coming from that place of I desire it and I would like to know if you desire this too, versus I want this and you have to give it to me. That's selfish. Of course that's selfish. You have to give this to me. You have no choice, right? But again, we're not usually coming from that place. More often than not, as women, we're coming from a place of I'm selfish if I ask for what I want, period. More often than not, we're coming from a place of it's unloving, it's greedy to ask for what I want. More often we're coming from those, which are deeply rooted belief systems that if I got started on that, I'd talk about that for a long time. So just know that the most important thing is to practice distinguishing that. And that act of placing yourself equal to the other is what is it's a tried and true practice to know that you're not acting from a selfish place if that's a fear that's coming up for you. So you start to rewire your subconscious mind to know that you're simply placing yourself equal to the other. You're acting from a place of selfhood. You're not acting from a place of selfishness. And that gets rid of that deep-seated fear very quickly when you start to really practice this. Another really common thing that scares us is that we tend to fear the no of asking. So we don't even ask because we fear the no. Subconsciously, that can often stem from the belief that if they tell me no, it's because I'm not worthy of a yes. So we tend to place our value, our worthiness of having that thing on the other person's agreement that we're worthy of it. You guys feel that? Again, this is very deep, so we're just doing introductory levels. But when we start to fear the no of another, then we're letting them decide for us if we're worthy of that. The no may have nothing to do with whether or not you're worthy of it. The no could be that's just something they're not choosing for themselves. But we tend to stop ourselves from asking because we believe we're not worthy of it. And again, we're going to assume they're not worthy of it, that we're not worthy of it. And we generally are taught to see ourselves and our value as women through the eyes of another. And we give them that authority over us by letting them decide if we're worth it or not. It's how we give our power away. When we start to root into our own value, our own worthiness of having what we want, ultimately, you no longer fear the rejection of the other person because you know that their rejection has nothing to do with how valuable you are. It has everything to do with their choice, which has nothing to do with who you are. And we begin to more easily separate, pull out those cords of attachment to their response. We begin to separate that so that we no longer see ourselves through their eyes or from their response, but we see ourselves through our own eyes. It's a process of learning to live from the inside out. You know who you are. That radiates outward. Doesn't matter whether or not that person knows that. Doesn't matter whether or not they agree. Doesn't matter whether or not they say yes to what you want. And if they say no, there's probably another way to get what you want. If it's something that is truly meant to be, if it is something that is truly something that you can create, it'll come another way. Again, that place of abundance and fulfillment from within versus that scarcity. I need you to prove to me I'm worthy of this. Very much a pattern of giving our power away. That's very much related to what will they think of me if I ask this, right? I mean, I know, especially growing up, even when in my former life, I was a criminal prosecutor, and it was especially difficult for me sometimes to, well, if I ask for this, they're going to think that I'm stupid, or I don't already know the answer, or I can't do it on my own. If I ask for this, they're going to think I'm incompetent or I'm incapable, if I need help. And that's when we start to, again, shape our perception of ourselves on what that other person thinks of us, instead of staying rooted in who we are. Because when we're concerned, if I ask this, they'll think I don't know and I'm not capable. Or if I ask this, they will reject me and not deem me worthy. Or if I ask this, they're going to think that I'm selfish. If I ask this, they're going to think that I'm greedy. Then, once again, we're placing our value and our worth on what they think of us. And we have determined, usually again subconsciously, that what their opinion of us is true. And that what their opinion of us is more important than what we want or need. And we give them that authority over us. We're worried, we're trained to people please as women, right? We want to make everybody happy. We want to avoid conflict. We want everybody to, right? But it usually comes at our own expense. So you want them to be happy, but what about you? It gets to be about both. Remember, that's selfhood. It gets to be about both. When it's just about making everybody else happy and you're not included in that, there's no both. You're down here. You've disappeared. So you've got to bring you back up. You're included in the both. You're included in everybody. You're not absent from that, right? That's, again, requires some work to really start to withdraw your opinion of yourself from the opinion of other people. Because we've been trained for most of our lives to judge our value based on the value given to us by others. So it takes some inner work, but it is possible and it's necessary to truly ask for what you want from an abundant place. I think a really good practice is to ask yourself, is having what I want, does it matter to me enough that I'm willing to risk rejection? Does it matter to me enough that I'm willing to hear no? Is it important to me? And I'm okay if they think I'm selfish for asking for it. What matters more to you? Does asking, having, and opening the door to that possibility matter more to you? Or does their opinion of you matter more? So we'll just do like a 1 minute, 30-second to 1 minute practice of this with that thing. So you can close your eyes again, cast your gaze downward and bring up that thing that came up at the beginning, that thing that you want. Ask yourself, how much do I care about this thing? How much does having this matter to me? And feel into it. Try not to think about it as much. Imagine how it feels to have what you want in your body. Notice if your body begins to expand. Imagine you already have what you want, how this feels. Does it feel good? Does it feel exciting? Does it feel scary? Does it feel possible? And then imagine one person who you could ask to have what you want. Ask yourself, am I willing to risk this person's judgment of me to have this? What is more important to me? Having it or their opinion? What matters more? And then feel into, okay, if it's their opinion, if it's how they feel, their anticipated projected response of what we think they're going to say, how it feels to not ask because of that. How does that feel in your body to not ask? Notice if there's contraction or expansion. And if there's any contraction, what do I need to do to expand through this? Fear. Fear is always contraction. Always. What can I do to expand through this fear? And the answer may or may not come today. It may come tonight, it may come tomorrow, it may come on your walk. And then when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. I invite you to turn on your video if it was off. And just notice what felt more expansive to you. Because if we're acting from a place of contraction, even if it feels so real, then it means we are not giving ourselves permission to have what we want. It's that simple. So you are always in choice. You can choose to not ask for what you want, to not express what you want. That's always your choice. Because of the fear, because of the, what will they think? Because of the, I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to burden them. Or am I willing to move through this contraction? Am I willing to face this fear? Am I willing to give myself permission to have what I want? It is the only way you're actually ever able to truly express what you want, is to give yourself permission to place yourself equal, to know you are worthy of it, and that a true desire that arises from within your being, from within your heart, that leads to expansion and excitement, deserves to be lived and felt, because you deserve to live your joy. You have to know and give yourself permission to believe you are worth that. Because you are the only one who can create that by giving yourself that permission. I'd love to know if there are any follow-up comments, questions, or if any of you have a burning desire to loudly proclaim what you want. Feel free, put it in the chat, unmute yourself. It could be really liberating to do so. It's okay if you don't want to as well. Just giving you permission if you feel like it. Yeah, Susan.
So that was a really powerful exercise, and I was at points taking some notes because I just wanted to capture everything you said today. I do need to go back to campus and teach again, so I'm going to have to wrap up a few minutes early, but I didn't want to do that without saying thank you so much, and good to see all of you, and it's really powerful, and you're doing amazing work.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. Anybody else want to loudly proclaim what you want? Hopefully, if you're not doing it here, you will, after we finish the call in a couple of minutes, you will be able to loudly proclaim what you want to yourself. I recommend that you go and you look into a mirror and you look into your own eyes and you loudly proclaim what you want to yourself 3 times. 3 is a magic number. 3 times. I want X. I want it. Let yourself feel the expansion of it. Let yourself feel the excitement of it. Let yourself feel like, oh, what does it feel like to have this? And I claim it, right? It is such a radical act for a woman to claim what she wants. I mean, you're literally changing thousands of years of social conditioning by simply claiming it to yourself. We've been told for thousands of years a woman is not allowed to ask for what she wants, and she doesn't deserve it if she does. It is so radical. That's why it can feel so challenging, but it's so radical. And I'm just like, I really want to encourage you to start claiming it to yourself, even if you're not ready to express it to that person yet. Start claiming it to yourself. And for those of you who are interested, I'm doing a free live day challenge on Zoom and Facebook, September 13th through September 17th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a video challenge, how to reclaim your choice and your voice in relationships. The Facebook group is Choose Freedom and Love. And if you register on the Eventbrite link, which I think I can post in the chat briefly, if you register on that, then you will get emailed updates. Let's see if I can, I thought I had it saved up here. You will get email updates about the event, but it's free, it's completely free. And it's about really looking at a lot of the social conditioning that prevents a woman from knowing she has a choice, from being in her choice, and from using her voice to claim what she wants. So if this is something that interests you at all and you want to take the work a little deeper, it'll be 5 days and it'll be a lot of fun. I'm really, really excited about it. So I'm going to paste it right here into the chat. I think that'll show up, and that's just a super brief intro to that, and people who sign up will get a Zoom link as well. And Laura, I know you probably got some other upcoming events that you want to let people know about as well.
Yes, we do. We do. Well, thank you. I want to give you a round of applause for that great presentation. And not only did that kind of get me an idea of expressing what I want, but it also relaxed me, this workshop.
Oh, good.
Gave me the minute to just sit and be quiet, which is sometimes so hard to do, you know, when we just don't sit. Sometimes if we just sit and be quiet. So it felt like kind of a bit of a meditation session for me. So I appreciate it.
Well, and you know, we really, until we start to curate that silence and that body awareness, we actually don't know what we want, because then we're simply operating according to what everybody else wants and what we think we should want.
Yes.
And everything outside of us is coming into us, directing what we want. Instead of actually allowing the true desire to come up and be expressed, it requires going within. And so
Absolutely. And
I
just
love
being
that you
quiet.
got
That's
that.
great. Yes,
I
I
love that
did.
you
That
got
was
it.
wonderful. So everybody, I have, thank you again, Jessica, for this. It was great. And I look forward to doing some other webinars with you in the future. I have put my email address. So if any of you are interested in any one-on-one coaching, technical assistance, our website is Western Women's Business Center, www.bcnc.org. Our events are posted on some QuickBooks classes coming up. We have marketing classes coming up. We'll get ready to start posting those. Very inspiring webinar. I see some that you just got posted. So yeah, just reach out to us if we can be of any further help to you. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you guys all for participating. I appreciate it. And I'm so glad you guys felt
See,
relaxation
Joan, great.
as well. Some
Great.
inspiration.
I'm glad you made it, Joan. We've been talking and she was anxious to get on your webinar.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
great.
good. I'm so glad.
And if everyone, you can unmute yourself if you feel free to, you can talk to Jessica. Let us know how you like the webinar today.
Or if you have any questions, and feel free to follow up with Laura or I.
Yes.
Like I said earlier, a lot of this work is continuing. It's hard to cover the depth in 1 hour, but hopefully you got enough of a taste of like steps to follow. And this is being recorded. I think Dwayne said he was going to paste it.
He will put it on their
you'll be able to
YouTube
access
channel
it.
for the AB Tech. Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
if anybody just shoot me an email and I can probably send you the link to the recording as well. So.
Great.
Right.
Thank you guys all very much.
All right. If
Thank
no one has
you.
anything else, time to unmute and speak up. All right. Good. Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, Alice.
All right.
Thank you.
There
Bye.
you are. Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Deborah.
Bye, Joan.